As a parent, you notice everything about your child. And when you see their little feet pressed totally flat against the floor, it's so natural to wonder, wait, is something wrong here? It's a question that tons of parents ask. So let's just cut to the chase. This is the big question, right? Do I need to do something about my child's flat feet? You've probably seen the ads for special shoes, you've heard advice from other parents. It can be a lot. Well, today, we're going to slice right through all that noise and get straight to the facts. Okay, let's dive in. First things first, if you're worried about your child's flat feet, you are definitely not alone. This is a super common thing for parents to notice, but as we're about to find out, it's almost never a real cause for concern. So what are we actually talking about? Well, the fancy medical term is flat foot or pes planus, but you've probably heard it called fallen arches. It just means that the arch on the inside of the foot is low, or maybe doesn't even seem to be there when they're standing, so the whole bottom of the foot touches the ground. Now, this slide right here holds the key to letting go of most of your worries. Every single baby is born with flat feet. It's not a defect, it's the default setting. It's literally the starting point for every kid out there. And this number just perfectly illustrates how this all works. So we know all babies start with flat feet. Well, by the time they hit their 6th birthday, a whopping 80% of those kids will have naturally developed a visible arch. It's not something we have to force, it's just part of growing up, kind of like losing their baby teeth. So how does this arch just appear? It really helps to think of it less like a problem and more like a project that's under construction, and it's following a very predictable schedule. As you can see on this timeline, it's a great little roadmap for what to expect. As a newborn, their feet are all squishy and flat. When they start to walk, their feet are going to roll inward a bit to find balance. That's totally normal. Around age 4, the muscles are getting stronger, the foot's taking shape. By 6, for most kids, that arch is shown up. And by 10, it's pretty much the finished product. It's a slow, steady, and completely natural process. But what about that other 20% of kids who don't really develop a high arch? Well, a lot of the time, the answer is in their genes. I mean, take a look at your own feet. If you or your partner have low arches, there's a pretty good chance your kid will too. Foot shape can be a family trait, just like blue eyes or curly hair. Okay, this next part is so important, because this is where a lot of parents get stressed out and can end up spending a bunch of money they don't need to. Let's bust the myth of the special shoe. This quote really just says it all. Researchers have looked into this for decades, and the conclusion is crystal clear. All those pricey modified shoes, the inserts, the splints, none of it has ever been proven to change how a child's arch develops naturally. So just to make it super clear, the myth is that you need to buy special inserts to somehow build an arch for your child. The fact, backed up by solid research, is that they don't provide any benefit for that. The arch develops all on its own, following its own internal game plan. And get this, here's a really fascinating piece of the puzzle. Scientists have actually compared groups of people who traditionally wear shoes with groups that go barefoot their whole lives. The result? The percentage of people with flat feet is exactly the same in both groups. That tells you that what we put on the foot doesn't build the arch inside the foot. So, what kind of shoes should your kid be wearing? Oh, you're gonna love this. It is so simple. You just want a shoe that's comfortable and flexible. It should offer some basic protection, and this is the most important part. It has to fit correctly, with a little room to grow. The right shoe is one that fits your child and fits your budget. That's really it. Now, I want to give you a tool that you can use right now at home. You don't need to be a specialist. You can become your own foot detective with this really easy test. It's called the tiptoe test. It's super simple. First, just have your kids stand normally on the floor, then ask them to go up on their tiptoes, like a ballerina. Now, watch the inside of their foot. If an arch magically appears when they're on their toes, that means they have a perfectly normal, flexible flat foot. The arch is there, it's just flexible, so it flattens out when their weight is on it. So after all this reassurance, you might be thinking, okay, but is there ever a time to actually worry? And the answer is yes, but it is extremely rare. So let's look at the actual red flags you need to know about. I'm going to say this again because it's probably the most important takeaway for 99% of parents. The typical, common, flexible flat foot causes absolutely no symptoms. No pain, no problems, nothing. It doesn't stop them from running, jumping, or playing at all. So really, there are only 2 red flags to keep an eye out for. 1, is your child complaining about pain in their feet or ankles that just doesn't go away? And 2, is the foot stiff, meaning when you did that tiptoe test, no arch appeared. If you see persistent pain or a stiff foot, that's your cue. That's when it's time to have a chat with a specialist. So if we had to boil this entire explainer down to just one sentence, this would be it. Your child's flat feet are almost certainly a completely normal, healthy, and usually temporary part of them growing into the awesome person they're meant to be. And that leaves us with a final thought, a new way to look at this. What if we just reframe the whole thing? Instead of looking at those cute little flat feet as a problem that needs fixing, maybe we can see them for what they really are. Just a beautiful work in progress, developing perfectly, right on their own schedule.